I have no idea.
Is it fair to say that there have been no transgender Supreme Court justices in American history?
I honestly have no idea.
You don't know?
I have no idea.
You study the law, don't you?
We do not study the personal attributes of individual justices.
Is there a Supreme Court justice in American history that you think might have been transgender?
I have no idea.
You have no idea? Well, I think most people can assume that there haven't been any transgender Supreme Court justices. I hope that we can agree at least on that basis. Would that be okay to proceed under that assumption? Okay, I appreciate that. So transgenders haven't been represented on the Supreme Court. Do you think that it's important that the next Supreme Court justice be transgender?
The ABA does not subscribe to any particular quotas.
I'm not asking about a quota, I'm asking about representation, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
The ABA supports diversity in all of its forms, and
Have transgenders been included on the U.S. Supreme Court?
the ABA supports the full spectrum of
Do you think that it's a problem that the transgender community has never had representation on the U.S. Supreme Court?
The ABA believes in diversity, equity, and inclusion as
And I'm asking you about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm asking you about inclusion of the transgender community.
we believe that people ought to bring their entire self to whatever role they're serving.
You're refusing to answer my question. Do you think that it's important that we have a transgender Supreme Court justice?
I believe that it's
in order to include that community.
I believe that it is always important, the ABA believes that it is always important to support and encourage diversity.
So we should have a
inclusion.
transgender Supreme Court justice?
Diversity has many forms, and we believe that
Do you think that you're not answering in a straightforward way? Do you think that's because of your own implicit bias?
I believe that I'm trying to explain that the ABA does not set quotas and does not believe that
Do you have implicit transphobia?
The ABA believes that diversity in all of its forms is important and helps the profession more globally.
Okay, we're going to move on. Should Americans be judged by the color of their skin or the content of their character?
Discrimination is never appropriate, sir.
So do you agree that Americans should be judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin?
Yes, I would agree.
You agree with that? Should a law school consider an applicant's race when making admissions decisions?
The Supreme Court has indicated that
I'm asking you if they should. It's a normative question.
discrimination is never appropriate, and
So is it your testimony that law schools should not consider applicants' race when making admissions decisions?
the Supreme Court has said that you may not take race into account.
So you don't believe that race should have any role, yes or no, in a law school's admissions decisions? Is that the position of the ABA?
The ABA is not responsible for admissions.
I didn't say it was. I'm asking you if you believe, and if it's the position of the ABA, that race should not be a factor at all in a law school's admissions decision.
The exchange between the chairman and the ABA representative quickly became a test of what diversity actually means when it comes to the highest court in the country. The chairman began with a question that sounded simple but was clearly designed to put the witness on the spot. Throughout American history, how many Supreme Court justices have been transgender? The witness wasn't prepared to give a number. And that opened the door to the bigger question. If the American Bar Association argues that the legal profession is strengthened when judges reflect the cultural groups within American society, does that mean every community should eventually have representation on the Supreme Court? The witness repeatedly emphasized that the ABA does not support quotas and instead supports diversity in many forms. But the chairman kept narrowing the question. Do you think it is important that the next Supreme Court justice be transgender? The answer still wasn't a straightforward yes or no. The witness explained that inclusion matters and that people should be able to bring their entire identity into whatever role they serve. Should the deciding factor be someone's race, gender, sexual orientation, or background, or should it simply be their legal ability, constitutional philosophy, experience, and character? That's the question the chairman was clearly trying to force into the open. And then he shifted the discussion from gender identity to race. He asked the witness whether Americans should be judged by the color of their skin or the content of their character. The witness agreed that discrimination is inappropriate. But then came the follow-up question: should race play any role in law school admissions? The Supreme Court has already weighed in on affirmative action policies, including in its 2023 decision concerning Harvard and the University of North Carolina. The legal landscape surrounding race-conscious admissions has therefore changed significantly. But the chairman wasn't asking what the Supreme Court had decided.
The ABA takes compliance with the law seriously.
I didn't ask you that. I asked, it's a really simple question. I'm asking you, let me just ask you in your own personal capacity, should race be a factor in law school admissions decisions? The question is a yes or no question.
I am here in my
Yes
capacity.
or no, should race be a factor in law school admissions decisions?
I am here in my capacity.
Because according to the ABA, it should. The ABA has said explicitly that they have a long history of supporting consideration of race in law school admissions. Is that your testimony, that law schools should continue taking into account race?
The Supreme Court indicated that diversity is a laudable goal, and the ABA supports diversity in all of its
This is
forms.
embarrassing for you. You ought to be able to answer this in a very straightforward way. And with that, the time is up.
Sir, I have 3 UCs requests.
Go for it.
Thank you. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a July 2026 article from Kerner News, North Texas families and the summer food programs they rely on.
Without objection.
Are feeling the sting of inflation.
Without objection.
He wanted to know what the witness personally believed. And the witness initially returned to what the court had said rather than giving a simple philosophical answer. That's where the chairman became visibly frustrated. Because from his perspective, this wasn't merely a technical legal question. He wanted to know whether the ABA's commitment to diversity could coexist with a principle that applicants should not be judged differently because of race. And this is where I think the hearing raises a genuinely important question. What exactly should diversity mean in American institutions? If diversity means making sure people from different backgrounds have an opportunity to compete, that's one thing. But if diversity eventually becomes a goal that influences who gets selected for positions regardless of individual qualifications, then Americans have every right to ask where the line is. At the same time, we shouldn't pretend that history has no impact on institutions. For generations, many groups faced barriers that had nothing to do with their ability or qualifications. So the argument for broader representation didn't come from nowhere. You can believe that discrimination is wrong while also believing that America's institutions should become more representative. You can believe diversity has value while also insisting that qualifications and individual merit must remain central. And you can disagree strongly with the ABA without assuming that everyone advocating diversity is acting in bad faith. But the chairman's questioning exposed something that often gets lost in political debates. Americans don't just want institutions to tell them that diversity matters. They want to know exactly how that principle is supposed to work in practice. Should the Supreme Court resemble America